Arthur, tell us a little bit about how you see the next 5 years in terms of technology. And I'm really talking about mobile devices.
The fundamental shift we're going to see in the next 5 years is already underway. And that's the big shift from basic and feature phones to smartphones. And it's being driven by the fact that entry-level smartphone prices have now come down to below 500 Rand. And these are really cleaning up the market. They right now behind a massive shift in the number of people using smartphones in South Africa, the penetration of smartphones. If you think that's happening right now, and you look at the prices right now, and then you think of where it'll be just 2 years from now, you're going to be seeing the sub 400 Rand smartphone, and you're going to see even greater take-up. And then a further 2 years from there, probably you'll see prices coming down to around 300 Rand, and a year later, 5 years from now, in other words, you're talking about the 200 Rand smartphone. And that really will result in people no longer buying feature phones. That shift will then demand a different way of treating data amongst the mobile networks. The cost of data is going to have to come down because right now it's prohibitive. So you have this massive user base with smartphones in their hands and they can't afford to use data on them. So there's a big disconnect. That's the real divide. It's not a digital divide, it's a data divide. And what that means is that marketers are going to have to understand that in the next 5 years, every consumer they're targeting now has a smart device. The real problem is that marketers themselves think everyone looks like them. So if they use an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy S5, they think so does everybody else. They tend to be into the coolest, latest tech, and they don't understand that their audience is at the other end of the spectrum.
So what would you say is the biggest thing that marketers need to look out for in the next few years?
Marketers are going to have to look at that particular issue of how do they address this new audience with new devices that's going to take the place of many of the existing media platforms. Another big challenge is the increasing availability of data about customers, about what's happening in the marketplace, etc. And bringing that together, the whole idea of big data, which really just means a lot of information. How do they integrate that information into their marketing and into their understanding of the customer? It's happening, it's certainly happening on a large scale worldwide, but it's not happening intelligently enough and targeted enough.